It started with a pear. Not even a good one, just one of those early bloomers that never fully ripens but still had potential. I'd been watching that pear for weeks like it was the finale of a reality show, waiting for the perfect moment to pluck it and enjoy the literal fruit of my labor. Then one morning, it vanished. Gone. No note, no trace, not even a snapped twig left behind. I knew in my soul it hadn't just fallen, because if it had, my dog would have had it halfway buried under the porch. This was theft. Cold, calculated, juicy theft. I replayed the footage on my security camera. There she was, Karen, queen of the HOA, wearing a visor the size of a car hood and a Live, Laugh, Love t-shirt that was probably weeping in irony. She slid in through the side gate with the stealth of a raccoon in flip-flops, plucked that pear like it was her birthright, sniffed it, oh the audacity, tossed it in her oversized tote like she was grocery shopping. No shame, no hesitation. I wish I could say that was the last time, but this was just her first taste. A gateway fruit, if you will. Over the next 2 weeks, my backyard turned into a neighborhood buffet. Plums, nectarines, the occasional fig, all vanished under cover of early morning power walks and thinly veiled community beautification rounds. It became clear that Karen wasn't alone. The HOA had turned my garden into a subscription-free farmer's market. Bob from down the street snatched 3 apricots and gave me a thumbs up through my kitchen window like we were in on it together. I wasn't. Every time I confronted them, they had a new excuse. "Oh, I thought these were public," Tina said as she stuffed cherries into her purse. "We were told we could take a few to support HOA events," said Richard, as if my peaches were part of some volunteer donation program I never signed up for. And Karen? She didn't even try to lie anymore. "You're part of the community, and sharing is what keeps us united," she said, like I was hoarding nuclear secrets instead of homegrown produce. At first, I tried setting boundaries. I put up cute wooden signs that read "Private Garden" and "Please Don't Pick." They were gone the next day, replaced with laminated HOA notices about unauthorized signage. I installed a lock on the gate. They hopped the fence. I even laid down mulch paths to redirect foot traffic. They stomped through the beds like they were reenacting the Grapes of Wrath. But the final straw? The HOA newsletter. Headline, "Fruitful Generosity, How Local Trees Are Feeding Our Community." Underneath it, a photo. My tree, with Karen standing in front of it holding a pear like she just ended world hunger. That was the moment I realized I wasn't just dealing with nosy neighbors. I was in the middle of a suburban turf war. They wanted fruit. They were about to get a shocking surprise. So I did what any sane person in my position would do. I called a meeting. Not an HOA meeting. Those were culty gatherings where Karen played dictator and everyone nodded like bobbleheads. No, I called a real meeting. My kitchen. Just me, 3 cups of black coffee, and a notebook titled Operation Zapback. Because I'd had enough. Enough of their fruit-thieving fingers, enough of the fake smiles, and definitely enough of Karen treating my produce like it was a public salad bar. That very evening, I visited a local farm supply store run by a guy named Chuck, who looked like he tamed bulls with a whisper. I told him I needed a fence, not just a keep the deer out kind, but one that said, "Touch me and regret your life choices." Chuck's face lit up like Christmas morning. "I've been waiting my whole career for someone like you," he whispered. I left that store with everything I needed. Steel posts, insulators, heavy-duty wire, and a solar-powered battery charger strong enough to fry a mosquito from 20 feet. The build was glorious. 3 days of pure, unfiltered spite construction. I worked under moonlight, sweat pouring off my brow, grinning like a villain in a superhero origin story. Each post I drove into the ground was a love letter to petty revenge. I even added a tiny chirp sound to the fence's power unit just to make it sound more menacing. And I didn't hide it. No, sir. I wrapped the fence around the fruit trees like a crown on royalty and put up one singular sign. Private property, touch at your own risk. Clear, legal, beautiful. But Karen? Oh, Karen didn't take that well. The very next morning, she marched up to my door in her neon jogging suit like she was about to call the cops on my vibes. "We received complaints," she said, arms folded so tight I thought she might fold herself in half. "The HOA does not approve of aggressive landscaping." I blinked at her. "It's a fence," I said, "around my trees, On my land. If people stop trying to rob me like it's Orchard Black Friday, no one gets hurt. She sniffed like she just smelled poor people and stormed off, muttering something about noncompliance. Next week, I got hit with a violation notice for unauthorized perimeter upgrades. I laughed so hard I almost fell off my porch swing. The irony? That same day I caught Karen on camera poking the fence with a stick like a curious chimpanzee. The stick zapped, she screamed. I replayed it 6 times while eating the juiciest plum of the season. Word began to spread. Kids stopped cutting through my yard on the way to school. Dogs walked faster past my property like they didn't want to be accused by association. Even the mailman started tossing my letters from the sidewalk like I had a moat filled with alligators. It was working. The fruit theft slowed to a crawl. But something in Karen's plastic smile told me she wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The next Friday, I came home to find a ladder leaned up against my fence, a half-empty tote bag full of mangled peaches, and Karen's HOA badge dangling from the top rung like a villain's calling card. I didn't even get mad. I just smirked. Because now the trap was set. And oh baby, the fence hadn't even had its real debut yet. By now, I knew I wasn't just fighting for fruit. I was waging war for my dignity. Karen had escalated. She was no longer just stealing produce. She was playing chess while thinking everyone else was stuck in checkers. Her latest tactic? Weaponized events. The HOA started hosting community picnics right beside my garden, setting up their folding chairs just inches from the electrified fence like they were taunting me, daring me to retaliate. They even hung a banner one Saturday that read, "Neighborhood Nourishment, Unity Through Nature." Translation? Free food from my trees. I half expected them to bring a mariachi band and start bottling my nectarines for sale. The kicker? They brought reporters. That's right. Some lifestyle blogger from the town newsletter showed up with a camera and a notebook, taking flattering shots of Karen holding a fruit basket, like she just stepped off the cover of Suburban Thieves Monthly. She even threw in a quote, "This garden has become a cornerstone of our community." I stared at the screen like I was watching a cooking show where someone just microwaved steak. I wasn't going to let this go unanswered. So I got creative. No violence, no sabotage, just petty brilliance. I filled the trees with decoys, plastic fruit that looked real from a distance but tasted like disappointment. I even soaked a few in vinegar and dish soap to give them a lovely hint of what the hell is this. Then I mixed them into the real fruit, like landmines of flavor sabotage. Within a day, I caught Karen spitting out a fake cherry so hard it nearly took out her sunglasses. Next, I upgraded the fence system. I wired in motion detectors that triggered a harmless but deeply humiliating alarm. A speaker that blared a recorded voice, my sayings, "Step away from the fruit, Karen." Loud, echoing, public. It went off at least 4 times that week. Each time, Karen looked around with the fury of a raccoon caught in a trash can. She started bringing an umbrella to shield her face like the paparazzi were following her. Then came the secret weapon, fruit surveillance. I installed tiny hidden trail cams in birdhouses pointed right at the trees. Every theft, every reach, every HOA member thinking they were slick, captured in glorious HD. I even started editing the footage into short clips and anonymously uploading them to a YouTube channel I titled Fruit Crimes HOA Edition. It blew up. Within 2 weeks, I had subscribers from all over the country cheering me on. Comments ranged from "Karen must be stopped" to "This is better than Netflix." But the HOA still didn't back down. They doubled down. Karen started holding yoga sessions next to the fence, pretending it was just for peace and wellness, even though everyone knew it was just another excuse to loiter near the peaches. At one point, they even tried bringing in a horticultural expert to assess the environmental value of my garden. Nice try. The guy tripped the sensor and got shamed over the loudspeaker so loud he almost face-planted into a bush. I'll give them this. They were persistent. But persistence doesn't beat preparation. Because while they were busy posing for pictures and planning their next illegal harvest, I was finalizing the final upgrade. Something foolproof, legal, deliciously poetic. A fence so fine-tuned, so precise, it would wait patiently until just the right moment. The trap was ready. The bait was ripe. The only thing left was the fall. Karen's ego must have been powered by nuclear delusion, Because after all the fake fruit fiascos, the alarm humiliation, and the public roasting on YouTube, she still strutted around like she ran the entire zip code. And maybe she did, for everyone else. But on my turf, she was just a mosquito with a superiority complex buzzing too close to a bug zapper. Her latest stunt? A bold, unsolicited declaration that all community gardens must comply with shared HOA harvest rules. She slapped that on a printout and mailed it to me like it was the Ten Commandments. Girl, the audacity had abs. But she didn't stop at paper threats. Oh no. Karen rolled out a full-blown HOA pamphlet about resource sharing, complete with stock images of smiling neighbors exchanging apples and shaking hands like a fruit mafia peace treaty. She even went on the local HOA Facebook page and posted, "Sharing is caring, especially when your tree limbs hang over community property." Now, I'll admit, one of my pear tree branches might have leaned a little past the fence line, but you know what else leans? Her common sense. And I was done playing farmer to these suburban scavengers. So I started playing the long game. First, I contacted an arborist, yeah, a legit one this time, to do a property boundary inspection and tag every single branch that crossed even a millimeter beyond my land. We trimmed it with surgical precision. If my tree was a haircut, it got a military fade. Not a single fruit hung outside my domain when we were done. I posted a picture of it online with the caption, "Pruned for peasants." The comment section went wild. Second, I contacted a lawyer, Cheryl, queen of legal savagery. Cheryl drafted a cease and desist letter so brutal I needed oven mitts to hold it. We had pictures, time-stamped footage, witness statements, even a fruit theft timeline spreadsheet. It was practically a Netflix true crime doc in legal form. I printed out 10 copies, stuffed them in glitter envelopes, and hand-delivered them to the HOA board during their monthly meeting. Karen opened hers like she expected a coupon for fruit smoothies. Her face dropped so hard you'd think gravity owed her rent. Now you think after all that she'd back off, right? Wrong. Karen came back with a vengeance. The very next weekend, she threw what she called the peach party, a thinly veiled swipe at me complete with peach-themed decorations, a karaoke machine, and a sign that read, "Nature's gifts are for everyone." Held, directly, next to my fence. That's when I knew she wasn't just obsessed with fruit. She was obsessed with winning. But honey, this wasn't a game. This was a slow-cooked, high-voltage, poetic revenge plot, marinated in patience and petty. At the party, I noticed something strange. Karen had invited kids, not just a few, an entire birthday squad. That's when I knew she was trying to corner me. Use the whole "but there are children here" card to guilt me into playing nice. But I wasn't falling for it. The fence was active, set to deterrent level voltage, nothing dangerous, but enough to shock some sense into the fruit bandits if they got cocky. And oh, they were cocky. They danced around the trees. Some adults took casual strolls, dangerously close to the perimeter. A drunk uncle tried to pretend he was admiring the bark texture. I watched from my porch, sipping lemonade like a passive-aggressive monarch, waiting, smiling, because they had no clue what was coming next. The sun hung lily in the sky, casting long shadows over my property. The peach party was in full swing, with the HOA residents and their kids milling about in their pastel-colored outfits, picking the fake fruit from the trees and tossing them into picnic baskets as if they were still pretending my garden belonged to everyone. I watched from my porch, my patience wearing thin, as Karen chattered away about some irrelevant nonsense with the same smug superiority she had carried for the past few weeks. She didn't see it coming. No one did. The dogs had been barking more than usual lately, the kind of bark that says, "I know something you don't." The electrified fence was buzzing like it had a personal vendetta. I was ready. This was the moment I had been waiting for. The perfect opportunity to hit peak revenge. Karen, never one to respect boundaries, crossed just a tad too close to my fruit trees, giggling with her cronies about her next community event. That's when it happened. Her foot hit the line, and the electrified fence lit up like a Christmas tree on steroids. The shock was immediate and undeniable. At first, it was just a little jolt, enough to get her attention. But then she took another step, and the full force of the voltage hit her like a train made of pure, unfiltered karma. Her body jolted, her hair flung back as her arms shot out in a spasm of panic. She screamed. Not a cute, I got a surprise scream, but the kind of scream that says, I'm a grown woman who just realized the universe doesn't revolve around me. The kids, bless their oblivious souls, froze in place, unsure if they were witnessing a performance or an exorcism. But the adults, the HOA people who had been plucking fruit from my trees with no shame, finally realized the real cost of crossing me. The kids burst into tears. The drunk uncle from earlier tried to run to Karen's aid, but got a dose of electricity himself when he tripped on a tree root and landed on the fence. The zap sent him flying backward, arms flailing like he was trying to take off. His wail of pain echoed across the yard, and I couldn't help but cackle quietly. Karma was a very sweet fruit. Meanwhile, Karen, in her stunned, half-terrified state, was writhing on the ground, clutching her backside like she had just sat on an electric stove. She finally found her voice, hoarse, panicked, and high-pitched, yelling, "What the hell is this? You can't do this! You can't electrocute people!" I strolled down the porch steps, my arms folded, a smirk curling at the corner of my lips. "Oh, Karen, I'm just protecting my property. You know, since you and your friends don't seem to understand the concept of personal boundaries." I nodded to the electrified fence, still humming in the background. I guess this is what happens when people don't listen, can't steal what's not yours. She was sputtering now, in total meltdown mode. She scrambled to get up, her hands shaking as she tried to stand, but kept falling back down. Her sunglasses were crooked on her face, her dignity lost somewhere between the shock and the fall. I knew this was the low point for her, the kind of public humiliation she would never forget. The whole HOA had just witnessed their queen, their fearless leader, take a tumble harder than any fruit could ever fall from my trees. It took a moment for the rest of the HOA members to react, and when they did, it was a mix of confusion, fear, and embarrassment. The drunk uncle was swearing, rubbing his singed skin. A few of the women started picking up their kids and trying to usher them away from the electrified fence, but the damage was done. The fruit thieves had been caught red-handed, and they'd paid the price in the best way possible. As Karen slowly pulled herself to her feet, her eyes met mine. There was no smugness left, no entitlement, just a defeated woman, covered in dirt and electric shame. She opened her mouth to say something, probably an apology, but I didn't need to hear it. The HOA wasn't going to bother me anymore. The fruit wasn't just for the taking. And as for Karen, well, it seemed like she'd just learned the hard way. I turned around and headed back to my porch, letting them stew in their collective failure. My garden was safe, my revenge sweet, and the HOA, well, they weren't going to be plucking fruit from my trees ever again, not unless they enjoyed the taste of electricity. The fence had won.